Borrow to conserve, not to consume. In this educational episode, I'm going to address the question, when is it wise to borrow money? Get ready. I think you're going to be blown away. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been helping people optimize assets and minimize taxes now for nearly 5 decades. I'm normally viewed as a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist, but I've helped many people as they like to invest in real estate or maybe just their own home or other assets, not real estate, but even machinery and equipment. And I teach them when it's wise to borrow and use OPM, what's that? Other people's money, so that you can become your own banker. And they sometimes don't understand it. Many times people quip, oh, there's 3 kinds of people in the world, those who pay interest and those who earn interest. Yeah, but the third is those that learn when it's wise to pay interest to make more interest, okay? So let's talk about how to borrow to conserve your assets and increase them rather than consume. Now, I've often said you can see equity lines of credit darting all over the lakes in the summertime in the form of boats and jet skis. In the wintertime, where I live, in the form of snowmobiles, where people borrowed on their home equity to buy depreciating assets. They're consuming. That's dumb, okay? Whenever you borrow, you should borrow to conserve and make money, not to consume by borrowing to buy depreciating assets. So what am I talking about? Again, strivers learn when it's wise to pay interest, arrivers who learn when you earn interest, but the mega wealthy thrivers understand, no, you should probably pay interest sometimes to make additional interest like banks do. So whenever you go to a bank to borrow money, if you happen to lack the ability to repay, they're going to tell you fat chance. Because most lenders do not loan you money if you have a bunch of equity in the property. That helps, but they really loan you money on the ability to repay if you've got positive cash flow or income. If you lack the ability to repay, they're going to tell you fat chance. So let's make sure we understand the difference between non-preferred and preferred interest expense, we'll call it. Let's say we have 2 individuals here. They both make $72,000 a year. And one is paying $12,000 a year in non-preferred interest, meaning non-deductible interest on credit cards or automobile loans because they're not deducting the automobile in their business or something. So you subtract what they're paying in interest and they have $60,000 available before taxes. We have another couple that is paying $12,000 of interest secured by a piece of real estate or maybe their house, and that is deductible, or some equipment or machinery that is deductible in their business. So both of them still have $60,000 before tax, but there's a huge difference on what they pay tax on. See, with non-preferred interest, this person has to pay tax on $72,000. This person only has to pay tax on $60,000. Are you getting it? That's a $12,000 difference that you don't have to pay tax on in preferred interest. $12,000 of money that you don't have to pay tax on in a 33% bracket is saving you a third of that, $4,000 in tax savings. So do you understand this? That's not necessarily bad. See, paying interest can be your friend, not just your foe. So let's make sure everybody's on the same page before I proceed any further. If we talk about real estate or home equity 101, if you have a property worth $350,000 and you owe $200,000 on it between maybe first and second mortgages or whatever, the remaining $150,000 is your equity. Okay, that sounds elementary, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understands from this point forward the difference between the fair market value on your properties and all loans against that property is your equity. Okay, so many times we look at our, let's say a 30-year amortized mortgage, it's 9% interest and we go, golly, I borrowed $100,000, but if I pay it off over 30 years, I'm going to end up paying back nearly triple what I borrowed. So they have a tendency to look at that as a negative. Or I borrowed $150,000 at 7% and I'm going to pay back more than double. In fact, I'm going to pay back more than double even at 6% on a 30-year mortgage. They focus on that instead of this and what this can be and how you can come out ahead by becoming your own banker. So a lot of times people don't understand there are two costs. You're going to incur one or the other. Which cost are you incurring? See, if you have all of your money tied up in a property, you are giving up the opportunity to earn a rate of return on that money because that property is going to appreciate or depreciate regardless of how much cash or equity you have in there. Equity has no rate of return. The property appreciates or depreciates. It has nothing to do with how much equity is in there, okay? And so if you leave it trapped in the property, you are giving up the opportunity to earn, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% rates of return like I have for over 40 years on my favorite financial vehicle, the tax-free laser fund. Now, what's the other cost? Well, if you keep this equity separated like I do, I have never paid a down payment for any property that I've obtained. I've satisfied down payments, but not with my money. With my credit, I'm able to get 80% loan to value on a first mortgage and the other 20% on a second, okay? So I keep my equity separated. And by doing that, I am paying interest on a mortgage. That's an employment cost because I'm not going to bury that money in my mattress. I'm going to do like banks do. They don't bury it in the vault. I'm going to put it to work as if I was paying an employee. So if this employee is costing me 4.5% interest, but is tax deductible, in a 33% bracket is only costing me 3. And over here, I am earning a rate of return of 9 or 10, tax-free. How much more is 9 than 3? Don't say 6, it's 3 times as much. I'm making 300% returns by having an employment cost. Why would I fire an employee that's costing me $30,000 when that employee is making me $90,000? Why would you get rid of a widget machine that's costing you $30,000 if it's making you $90,000, triple what it's costing you, okay? So you're going to incur one cost or another, but if the employment cost is tax deductible and the opportunity cost is non-deductible, which one would you rather incur? I'd rather incur the deductible employment cost, okay? So people say, well, golly, Doug, this is giving me all kinds of thoughts. Tell me how money really works. Okay, well, there are 4 things you can do with money. You can spend it, lend it, own with it, or give it away. I double dip. I sort of own and loan on the same asset, and I'm able to double dip. So let me show you what I do here. Banks, they borrow OPM, other people's money, and they might pay you 3, 4, 4.5% interest on a CD if you leave it there. So they're borrowing and they're paying interest. Interest is their friend, not their foe. They would wither up and die if they didn't do that. Because it's not a negative to them, it's a positive. They turn around and loan you money at 7.5%, and that's a 3-point spread, and they make millions doing that. All I'm saying is you can do the same thing. You can become your own banker. So for years, during the after the 9/11 terrorist attacks up until 2012, 2015, banks were getting away with borrowing OPM at 1%. They were paying 1% or less with your money sitting in a bank. Every million they borrowed, they only had to shell out $10,000 in interest a year. They turned around and loaned it back at 5%. And do you know that 30 to 40% of their tier 1 assets, I'm talking about banks and credit unions, are invested in insurance companies where I put my money. Oftentimes, this is in the form of BOLI, bank-owned life insurance, and they earn 5%. How much more is 5 than 1? Don't say 4. They're making $50,000 tax-free. Would you hire an employee for $10,000 that made you an extra $50,000? That's 500% return on employment costs. Are you getting it? Would you buy a widget machine for $10,000 that made you an extra $50,000? That's a 500% return on equipment cost. So many times throughout the years on my real estate, for example, if I borrow at 6% tax deductible interest, $60,000, I write off on my tax return. The net is 4% or $40,000. That's the true cost. If I only earn 8% compound interest tax-free on my assets over here in the laser fund, how much more is 8 than 4? Don't say 4, it's 100% more. Many times banks make at least double what they pay you in interest, and they come out millions of dollars. Well, yeah, they're dealing with millions, but you can do this and become a multimillionaire doing the same thing. In a low interest environment, I was able to borrow money, sometimes at 3% with my credit, tax deductible interest for my business, real estate or whatever. In a 33% bracket, that's a net cost of 2. and I was earning 10%, 10.07 to be exact. How much more is 10 than 2? 500%. The banks were making 500%. I was making 500%. Everybody's happy except the people who don't understand this. So hopefully you're getting this. So let me just show you some examples here. I keep my real estate equity I keep my real estate equity separated to keep it liquid, safe, earning a predictable rate of return because liquidity is number one, a key element of a prudent investment. Safety is number two, rate of return is number three. Real estate equity fails all three of those, okay? You can't get your money when you need it. Your money's not safe. The property can go down in value like mine did in 2008. It went down in value 400 grand, okay? Nearly 40%. It's not earning a rate of return. The property is going to go up or down in value regardless of how much equity is in there. So the rate of return on equity is always zero. You can check me out on this channel on me pouring water back and forth between a pitcher and a goblet if you don't agree with me, and you'll be convinced. So I keep it separated because this is an amortized loan, simple interest, declining balance, tax deductible, and this is a compounding balance tax free. This is my laser fund. This right-hand pocket are my assets compounding at a rate of return usually double to triple the net cost of the simple interest mortgage over here. Compound interest tax-free versus simple interest tax deductible. Does that make sense? What does it mean mathematically? If you separated or kept $100,000 of equity separated instead of paying it into a big down payment or extra principal payments into a property, and you were borrowing at 9% and only earning 7.5%, but that 7.5% is compounding and the 9% is tax deductible, that 9% is not costing you 9, it's costing you 6. Over a 30-year period, if you only did it one time, 775 grand. You would have made nearly $600,000 profit by not having the money trapped in the property, okay? What if you borrowed at 7.5 and only earned 6, okay? Now, 7.5 in a 33% bracket, only a net cost of 5. That's only 1 point spread, but on 150,000 of equity, you come out ahead over $500,000 over a 30-year period. That's just a one-off, okay? Well, what I've really done most of my life, every 100,000 of separated equity, if I borrowed at 6.5% tax deductible interest, and I only earned 8.5 on my laser fund, okay? Now, I have critics out there that go, you'll do all that for 2%? The difference between 8.5 that you're earning and 6.5? I go, bless their little heart. They don't understand it. Yeah, I'll do that all day long. Banks do it all day long and they make millions. So can you. You want to see how? Because this is not really 2%, but this is actually as much as 100% more than the net cost of the funds when you calculate the net after tax cost of that mortgage. So on 100,000 of separated equity, you'll make 4,000 of profit the first year. After 15 years, 174, but you'll make nearly $1 million over a 30-year mortgage by not sending extra principal payments to the mortgage, but putting it over here, compounding. I'll end up with $1 million over in this pocket. Yep. Now, that's only on 100,000. How do you extrapolate from this? If you have 200,000, it's 2 million. If you have 400,000 that you could separate from properties, that's 4 million. Just do the math, extrapolate. But that's a one-off. What I do is I keep my real estate properties, my office equipment, my business equipment, and I refinance it usually every 5 years on the average. As it goes up in value, as it appreciates, I keep it separated. By doing this and repeating the process every 5 years and only assuming my house is appreciating at 5%, that means it's only doubling in value every 14.4 years. This number turns into 10 million. 10 million, okay? Other than that, I don't have any strong feelings on this subject. And so what I'm talking about, it's wise to borrow money when you're borrowing to conserve, not consume. So if you want to learn more about this laser fund, where I keep my serious cash compounding tax-free, I want to gift you a copy of my most recent best-selling book. It's my 11th book. It's been flying off of the warehouse shelves. You can go to Amazon and purchase this for $20 plus shipping and handling. If you do that, thank you. But I'll gift you a copy. You simply go to laserfund.com or click on the link below, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost. I require some skin in the game. And while you're in there claiming your free copy, because I'll send out a hard copy via priority mail. But if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, there's audio and video formats. Check out our educational webinars, and they're free. We teach on a regular basis. You can register for one of those. If you want to talk to an IUL specialist that will show you how to create one of these for yourself, they are overseen by me. You want to make sure it's done correctly. There's a lot of agents that sell IUL that don't know what they're doing. They don't belong to a group that I teach called IUL Insiders. So this is not about me. This is about you and making sure that you do not miss out on a fortune.